Diary, it's the beginning of August 2020 and what you're looking at is a Ubquiti Unifi network summary screen. And why am I showing you this? Well, the backstory is that some friends have asked me to come around and diagnose their very slow internet connection. Now they have a fibre to the home connection, and as such they should have a very fast internet connection. It should be in or around 100 megabits per second down and up. And when I arrived, it was running at 5. And in fact, they said that they had been onto the BT website, and they said that BT promised them a 30 megabit connection. I think the words are up to 30. And they had been sent a router by BT, and they were saying that they should really re-sign up with BT because the current fibre connection they've got wasn't working. And I said, that's just absolutely crazy. So I'm pleased to say that it's taken a couple of hours of diagnosis, but their internet connection is now running at pretty much rocket speed. Do I have a shot of that? Let's have a look. Yes, so we've got a download speed of 87 and an upload speed of 66, and that's across a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network, not even a 5 gigahertz network. So we're really pushing what's possible using the antiquated technology that I'm about to indicate. So let's just go to the summary, tidy panel, which I'm rather proud of. So when I arrived, the stuff was absolutely everywhere. There was no labelling, and it was a miracle that anything was working. There was no documentation. No login user IDs and passwords, and these are the kind of things that I'm glad to say we will be leaving them with, or I wish I'll be leaving them with. So I wouldn't say I've got low expectations, but I'm leaving them with something that's better than the original. Everything is still working. It's a tidy system, as you see in front. It's much faster than it was. It's up from 5 or 10 megabits per second to about 80 or 90. And other systems people will very much appreciate the fact when I say I'm especially proud I'm leaving their premises and nothing is broken. As a systems guy, it's always a pleasure to help people out, but sometimes details are omitted and you go in to help somebody and unwittingly you stumble into kind of a trap which involves you breaking stuff. So I'm proud to say I'm leaving their house with everything working. So they use Ubquiti Unifi routers, and it's my first investigation into this technology, and I thought I'd spend the rest of the time moaning on about Ubquiti Unifi routers. So they've got multiple routers multiple Wi-Fi access points set around the house. So I'm just going to do some pointing. So that's the fibre internet router coming in, and that's now going to a managed switch, which is here. From that managed switch we have a patching panel. So you'll see that we are going into a patching panel, and these exits go into a patching panel, and from there, for example, we're going to go to the lounge Wi-Fi. But in the kitchen, what's actually happening is we're using this Ubquiti Unifi access point. Now, the first thing to know about Ubquiti, I'll just call it Unifi from now on, is that they're a bit Apple-esque in the sense that they sell you a solution which kind of works in a kind of handoff kind of way. There's very little to twiddle in terms of networking parameters, and it's kind of like Apple-esque kind of don't worry your little head about things. We've got your back covered. We know what we're doing. You don't need to know what you're doing. We'll get it all working for you. But in our case, it wasn't working. So what I found out is that Ubquiti doesn't have a built-in web server in the access point. So I think it's a bit old-fashioned, because what you've got to actually do is you have to install a program, a controller program, on your PC or Mac product. And from that, it's going to talk to the different access points. So there's no web interface directly. Even if you know the IP address, you can try and surf to the IP address Yeah, it doesn't, nothing happens. So, and the other thing is that somebody came and set this equipment up for them and didn't give them any user IDs or passwords. And therein lies the problem, because on the PC that was initially used to configure these access points would have been a user ID and password and a configuration file which is built up based on the settings that you put into that PC's, let's call it, application. But they've long gone, and so how do you actually reset the router? And the way to reset the access point is the following. First of all, you've got to get this round lid off. And it's done in quite a clever way, I suppose, for maximum security. So there's no button that you can actually press. All the buttons are inside the case, but it's practically impossible to get the case off. Now, in this case, it's like doubly impossible. This round access point, there's a slot which you have to put a screwdriver in, but whether OpenReach came second and this came first, the slot is basically here, and you have to get a tool in like that. So let's just say a lot of sweating was involved, and at least 45 minutes was involved to actually get that lid off. Scoured the internet, and you can get a flat metal. Some Dutch guy was lovingly saying that his son had made a flat tool with a bit of a rounded kink on the end of it, so that he could push into there and push a little plastic lever, and then that top comes off. Once this top has come off, there's a reset button inside there, and you have to hold it for 10 seconds in this case for it to reset. So once it's reset, it goes into setup mode, and then from your PC program you can do you don't have to do a scan, you just have to be in the PC program, and the PC program will automatically find, obviously you're on the same network. In this case I have an Ethernet network, and I've plugged into one of these Ethernet ports here because I'm configuring this Wi-Fi access point. Obviously it's not going to be connected while I'm configuring it. So the key thing is, via a wired Ethernet connecting to the same network, let's say on a switch port here. This is connected to a switch port via the PoE device, Power over Ethernet device, and then the actual configuration program on your PC automatically finds that device. Even that wasn't without great problems. So the first problem was, let's just go to the, so these are the two access points I'm showing you, that I'm looking at here. And another thing to note is you can't install this program without installing Java, and you should be Java 64-bit of course in these days. So I didn't want to install Java 64-bit, but this program has to use Java. So another tip is that if you install Java in an online way, it sends all sorts of information to Oracle. And because I don't very much like that company, and I don't want to send them any information, you have to download the offline installer. So steps are, on your PC, download the offline Java 64-bit installer, run and install Java 64, then install the configuration program for Ubiquiti, then start that program, then have your access points in reset mode, and then they'll pop up as unconfigured if you've pressed the reset button for long enough. And now the amazing part, the amazingly bad part. Eventually I managed to find the button that allows you to do the firmware upgrade, and it took more than 20 minutes to do the upgrade on each device. 20 minutes. I have no flipping idea what it was doing, but it took more than 20 minutes. And you can't access the device until the firmware level is at the right level. So I've downloaded the latest client, obviously. And you can set up your SSID and your user ID and password and all that information before you connect these access points. So that can be done before you connect these access points. You can have all that sitting ready, and then you configure, or you power on your access point, and then the access points show up, then you upgrade the firmware, and then finally you might be able to get it working. Now in my case, there is very, very little you can twiddle it. Like I say, it's very Apple-esque. It's like, we know much, much better than you do. I did notice that I could tweak the bandwidth of the wireless radio. So I've made it 40 megahertz, not 20 megahertz. I can't find it here, but it's somewhere. So the other thing I noticed, even though the internet said different, is that all the devices, they all look very similar. There's different sizes of device with slightly different capabilities, but without to a Google search, every Google search I made said that this device has a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz wireless, but it hasn't. It's only got a 2 gigahertz wireless. So there's no AC networking. It's really, really basic. So I've left them with the best that they can hope for, which is BGN wireless networking at 2.4 gigahertz. As I've shown you, we've managed to squeeze over 8 megabytes per second download sustained, which is pretty good. I have to say, it's pretty good for these devices. You can increase the width of the band to 40 meg, but otherwise there's not much options. Obviously now I can leave them with the user ID and password to their Ubiquiti controller. That's installed on my PC, but you can back it up into a file that they can install the controller on their own PC and import that file. So just to be clear, you can't manage these devices directly to the devices. You have to manage it by this Java-based program, but you can export the configuration file from here to a file. Then you take that file, give it to the owner in my case, and say, oh, install this program, and you can restore that file. There's another set of options when you start to use this program, which wants you to use a Ubiquiti cloud user ID and password. But in my case, I'm not doing that. I'm using just a purely local user ID and password. And in order to do that, when you first set up the Ubiquiti program, you have to go into advanced configuration and say you don't want cloud access. Okay, so this is a purely local access. So that's it, Dari. It's quite a long video. I hope you've still awake. But I'm leaving them with decent internet and a recommendation never to buy any more Ubiquiti products, because for me they are too closed architecture, and I think they'd be better off with my favourite, which is of course MikroTik. Okay, that's it for now, and speak to you later.